Hey y'all, it's Necey Dixon. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. If you are returning, y'all, welcome back. Okay. Let me update y'all. This live is a little bit later today, but you know what? Time was on my side because we got an extra hour today. Last night I had a gathering at my house for it was like a pre-birthday celebration, and I was working myself getting ready so hard. I was curling these bundles. That's how y'all know I'm so used to the braids. I was curling my hair trying to get these bundles together, took the flat iron and straight up snapped my damn face. Okay. Snapped my face. So that's why I have that burn mark on my face, number one. Y'all got some good remedies, let me know. For right now, I'm just putting tea tree oil on it and, just trying to let it heal. But yeah, other than that, y'all, I had a really good night. My birthday is coming up this Thursday. It's Scorpio season, 11/11. I had good vibes at the house, and I still managed to watch both episodes and take notes so I could come here and talk to y'all live this Sunday, because this weekend I was like, oh yeah. I low-key forgot I do have a live Sunday. So how am I going to plan for the party, have the housewarming, have people come over, watch the show, take notes, and make sure I'm here to talk with y'all. So I'm doing just that, okay? We really did. We really looked up, really. So I'm glad we can come on and talk about these shows. I don't think the review gonna be too long. I always say that, but then I end up talking to y'all for like a good hour. Y'all know this is the mashup, okay? We talk about Ready to Love first, and then Love and Marriage Huntsville will come on the second half of this video. After this live is posted, I drop down in the comments and I let y'all know where Love and Marriage Huntsville starts, because a lot of y'all come for Love and Marriage Huntsville. So this is the own mashup, okay? I think that's the only other announcement. With that being said, y'all be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We got a goal to get to, okay? I'm trying to put out these videos. And we also have Real Housewives of Potomac that premieres tonight. So I'll catch y'all on Monday night. Yeah, Monday evening, Monday lunch, depends. I'll catch y'all tomorrow. So make sure y'all have y'all notifications turned on so we can talk about Real Housewives of Potomac. But for now, let's go ahead and get into the video. Hey, chat, what's up? Let's go ahead and get into Ready to Love. All right. So let me pull up the pictures. Thumbnail, y'all know how we do. This was probably the face. This face right here, my face in the thumbnail, that depicts how I felt about Love and Marriage Huntsville. Not gonna lie, y'all. I rewind over the parts where Mel and Martell were arguing, because I was trying to figure out, like, what happened? What did I miss? And then I realized, I was like, nothing. I didn't miss a thing. Mel and Martell always arguing. So that was my face, okay? So let's get into Ready to Love, y'all. This week is the ladies' week. They have control. Shout out again to Tommy for coming and talking to us, the Ooh Ladies First panel. If y'all want to check out our interview and the questions that we had to ask him, y'all can go find the interview on Jamie That's Me's YouTube channel. Jamie That's Me on YouTube. We had a good interview. Okay, so shout out to Tommy. So the ladies are in the lounge. They have control this week. What we find out is that we're going to see a good old black and sexy pool party. Lots of melanin. I love when they do this on the show, because I just like seeing all the black skin. Everybody's looking top tier. Everybody look pretty good, right? So it's time for the pool party. What we also find out at this pool party is that he throws a curveball. And y'all know Tommy always has to say two. He always says two very specifically. He got to, boom, put the drama on it. So we find out, initially, y'all, I'm excited. Initially, we're thinking that only one person is going to go home. I'll let y'all know what happens at the end, okay? But the curveball that we get this week is that we're being surprised by the addition of not one, but two sexy singles, as he says, okay? So this week, we are introduced to Sydney, who's 33. She's cute. I knew she was going to be one of the younger ones, real cute, curls for the girls. And she said she's an entrepreneur. I don't know exactly what she said her business was, but later on in the episode, she tells us that she already knew Frank because they're both a part of the nightlife. So I'm not sure what her business is, but it probably has something to do with the nightlife. I hope she's not a damn party promoter like Carrington, but who knows? She might be. Anyway, She's cute. Okay. She had a cute little body too, came out in a nice little swimsuit with the hips out, and the dudes definitely were cheesing. I have to say, Frank was cheesing with them. Frank was cheesing. So he was excited to see her as well as the other men, right? And then we're also introduced to Sean, who is 44 years old. He's an entrepreneur. He's another bald man with a beard. So I thought that he would have more popularity amongst the women, but it didn't really seem like, they were really, they weren't really choosing him. C. Golden, I was wondering the same thing. C. Golden said that she brings champagne bottles with the sparklers. I was wondering the same thing, but I'm like, that doesn't, if you're a party promoter, you can roll that into an I'm an entrepreneur because it's a business. But if you're a bottle girl, I don't think that you would call yourself an entrepreneur unless you're like a bottle girl who sells eyelashes. It's levels. Who knows? So if y'all know what Sydney's Instagram is, share it with me because I was trying to look earlier. I was like, what does she do? Because you could be a whole business owner. You could own a cocktail bar like Frank. You could be a party promoter and call yourself an entrepreneur, or you could be a bottle girl who sells eyelashes on the side and you're also an entrepreneur. So who knows? So I guess we'll just find out. Y'all let me know if y'all find out before me. Okay, so like I was saying, Sean, I thought he was going to have more popularity amongst the women, but it didn't really seem like it. Whenever one of the women asked him what he does for a living, he was like, I create. What? What do you do? The women need to calculate numbers. Is this relationship gonna work or not? So I don't know what he meant by that. Okay. So there's a specific scene that I want to talk about once the new people are introduced. We see Sydney, who's the new girl. We see Sean, the new guy, and they're sitting down talking to Camille and Zadia. Camille. I don't really care for Camille. I think I've seen enough episodes at this point to say that. I've seen like some pretty ugly tendencies come from her where I was like, I don't really know. But this episode, I was like, yeah, no, I don't like her. So anyway, Sydney and Sean are talking to each other. And all of a sudden, Zadia was like, do y'all want us to get up? And Zadia and Camille are like, because it seems like y'all just want to talk to each other. We can leave y'all alone. And to me, I felt like that was very passive aggressive. I felt like that energy was coming from Camille. Camille and Zadia are already comfortable in the relationships that they kind of have settled into. Camille's comfortable with Cornelius, and we also know that Zadia has a connection with Naeem. What they're also not showing is that Zadia has a connection with Walter as well. So for Camille and Zadia, it will be easy for the two new people to just vibe with the two new people. And I feel like that's what they were trying to do by making the situation awkward. Like, yeah, don't come talk to my man, talk to him. So we'll make it easy. And I feel like that's what she was trying to do. So when I saw that, I was like, okay. And like I told y'all before, we also find out that Sydney and Frank have mutual friends because they're both involved in the nightlife. Don't know what that means for Sydney. I'd like to find out though. Okay. So the other person who I want to talk to y'all about, we're not going to go in exact order. We're just going to go really high level with the storylines this week. So the next person I want to talk about is Tyrone. Tyrone with the eyes. Now, I feel like his eyes are probably like, I don't know if he was always very like that. I'm assuming that it's part of his PTSD. So I don't want to go too in on Tyrone. He does do some things that makes him look like an asshole. But I feel like he's being 100% genuine to how he feels. And he's just very, very awkward. So y'all know Tyrone is quick to make decisions. He told us that he couldn't handle talking to three women at once, which is why he broke things off with Carrie so fast. Now, I wasn't upset that he broke things off with Carrie. It was week one. In my opinion, Tyrone wasn't that dude for one. For two, y'all had only been talking for a week, so I really didn't see the need to meet with him and discuss y'all's closure. I didn't see the need at all. So yeah, that's how I felt about it. I really wasn't tripping on him saying that he wasn't feeling Carrie like that. But this week, I was like, pump the brakes. You're getting a little bit ahead of yourself. And the reason why is because Tyrone, in this picture up top, he's talking to Shiloh at the pool. And he's saying to Shiloh, I always said, I look at Sabrina and I say, Sabrina could be my lady, but Shiloh is my wife. Shiloh could be my wife. And Shiloh is very flattered. She's so sweet, but she's also taken aback because she wants to go through the full process. She's not at that point to where Tyrone is at that point. And low key, initially I admired his decisiveness, but now he's so decisive that you move on from saying, okay, I don't want to entertain anybody else, to now saying that this woman is your wife. Low key, that's a little scary. It tells me that he's probably one of those people that whenever you get into a relationship, you completely melt yourself into the other person. And I could see him doing that with Shiloh. He definitely seems like he needs some sort of peace in his life. And Shiloh seems like she could be that peace because she likes spirituality. She's an intimacy coach. She likes yoga and all that stuff. So I think Tyrone specifically chose her because she is peace for him. But just at the speed in which he chose her, I'm like, red flags, okay? And then Sabrina, she thought that it was funny because he then goes and tells Sabrina, I guess he learned from the last time to go straight to the source and tell her when you're feeling away instead of just telling Shiloh first. He goes straight to Sabrina and he tells her the exact same thing. I like you, but Shiloh, I see Shiloh of more of being my wife. And Sabrina's like laughing, like, are you serious? Like, you probably want to get to know people more. I think Sabrina handled this much better than Carrie handled it. I think Carrie was a little more hurt about the way that Tyrone handled the ending of their relationship because she had no other connections. Sabrina has other connections. So while she was taken off guard, she was kind of like, you tripping. So I think Sabrina handled this well. What Tyrone doesn't know is that he is about to shoot himself in the foot. Now, the next connection I want to talk about, y'all, something about Aisha this whole time, I was like, I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. But this week, when I saw her in this picture with Sean, I was like, Aisha, you look really cute. Like, I don't know, maybe it's because the wig is laid differently. Maybe it's because your makeup is done differently. But something in the beginning of the series, I was like, I don't know, the wig feels oversized for her head. And this week I was like, she looks really cute. So I just had to say that. She looked really cute. She actually had a connection with this new dude, Sean, the 44-year-old entrepreneur, but nobody knows exactly what he does for a living. Y'all, we gonna need more descriptions in entrepreneur. We're not, I need more descriptions on these shows, okay? I could sell cakes on the side. I could sell fish plates on Sundays, walking up to you in the Walmart parking lot asking if you want to buy banana bread, and I could be an entrepreneur. I want to know, what do y'all do for a living, okay? So anyway, Aisha and Sean, they make a connection at the pool party. Their connection turns into a date. And like I said, I thought Aisha was glowing. Frank says that he's a little bit jealous and he wants to know what's real between him and Aisha because he gets a little bit territorial when it comes to his lady, right? I thought that was interesting because he was also flirting with Sydney. So I'm like, are you and Aisha to the point to where y'all don't want to date other people? I hope not. But okay, I guess we'll see more from Frank feeling some type of way later on because Sean is still there. So anyway, this date seems to go well until Sean explains that he wants to have kids, whereas Aisha has 2 teenage children, and she's basically to the point in her life where when she gets married, she want to be on a beach somewhere with her partner, just living life, no kids, because she's already done the work. Sis, I don't blame you at all. So she's done having children, and ultimately the date ends kind of awkwardly because Aisha asked him, is that going to be an issue for you? And he says, I don't know. And she says, I understand. Sean, that's an issue for you. That's a deal breaker. But You also probably have only made one connection within the 2 days that you've been there. So you don't want to completely close that door just yet because you need to talk to other people. So I understand the strategy, but I'm here to tell y'all Aisha and Sean are not going to work. This man still wants children. I don't see him changing his mind on that at all. Okay. So we will move on to the next storyline. I'm already tired. I'm already tired, y'all. This next storyline is Corey. I didn't realize I was talking about Corey next. Ugh, ooh, child. Okay. So, y'all, Corey, we'll go back to the pool party for a hot second. So, I noticed that at the pool party, him and Mean were matching. They both were wearing neon. And y'all not gonna tell me Corey did not do that shit, intentionally. He did. He definitely was trying to have her feel like they was a couple. And she was definitely parading around like, this is my man. I need you not to play yourself, Do not play yourself. Girls always do. You always, at first you like, nah, this dude is too lame. And then you end up giving the lame dude a chance only for him to try to play your ass ultimately for Courtney. So Courtney's walking around the pool area and she's finding all kind of love notes talking about you're my first crush and all this other stuff. And Courtney is actually cheesing. Courtney, I felt like Courtney was just too cool for school to get played by this dude. I really thought Courtney was going to be too cool for him, for sure. So anyway, she's smiling. She's like, somebody's leaving me the love note. She's talking to Walter, and everybody's like, well, it's probably Corey, right? So then at the end of the night at the pool party, Corey sits Courtney down. She basically sitting in his lap. He says, yeah, I just wanted to let you know those notes came from me. Y'all keep in mind, this is after a full day of him parading around like Mean was his lady. So the whole card game was a tactic to still make sure that Courtney felt like she was just as important, even though physically he was with Mean the entire time. Ugh, get out of here. So he's talking to Courtney, and of course he has to reveal, I'm the one who did the cards, and just so you know, it's more of that to come. This is just the beginning if you decide to be with me. You're a lame, okay? You're a lame. You're a joker. We need to get your ass a clown hat so you could for us, because I am not being convinced at all. I'm like, what is going on? Courtney is still blushing. So Mean ends up hearing about the love notes from Tisha. I don't know how she didn't see it. I guess she must have been occupied doing something else, or either his words had her so wrapped up and she had hearts in her eyes that she didn't really see exactly what was going on. So Mean decides to meet up with Corey. She tells him what she heard. And in response, he doesn't answer her question. He says to her, did you see me sending love notes? And she says, it doesn't matter though. Did you do it? He said, well, did you see me? And she says, well, this is quite disappointing because I'm not going to get an answer from you. So in his confessional, he's saying, yeah, I'm deflecting really hard. And then they go back to the scene. And that's where he says to Mean, well, I'm trying to figure out, are you ready to take this to the next level? Do you want to settle down and, choose me at the end of the day? So he's flipping it on her, making it seem like, yeah, I was flirting with Courtney, but tell me, are you ready to choose me? And Mean is smart enough to follow that, like, you're not answering my question and you're just trying to fluff shit up. So Mean, thank you. If you gonna play with a fool, I need you to be able to have discernment and decide, like, hey, I'm smarter than this. He isn't making sense at all. Yes, T-Smo, I'm with you. Says, I would have been done when he asked me, did you see me? I don't have time for these stupid games. No, not the time at all. Mean, I'm glad you didn't dedicate too much time to it because I was concerned that Mean was going to get played all over again. So anyway, he continues to deflect. And that's where he says, well, I want you to meet my parents. And she says, well, that depends. How many other people are you asking to meet your parents? So we'll get back to that. Okay. So I'm glad that she knows that he's just playing a game. This dude is so calculated that it's actually concerning. Anybody who is this calculated and can fake emotion and manipulate situations to get what they want, I feel like you missing some marbles and you're a little bit inhumane. And people like that typically don't have regular ass feelings. People who aren't wired where logic somehow crosses with emotion eventually. He's not wired like that. His shit is side by side. He's very logical, but he's displaying emotion. It's like, you need to watch it on this one. And it's like, shit starts off real small with issues like this. And then ultimately, they end up looking crazy in the long run. So this is a red flag. Wrong, girl. We're going to get back to Corey. So now, y'all, this is the first group date of the episode, or the only group date, actually. We get Camille, or Denise 2.0. We get Sydney, Cornelius, and Dante. Sydney was the one who was talking to Cornelius. Sydney is the new girl. She was talking to Cornelius at the pool party, right? And Cornelius is, he's just being friendly to Sydney. And that's when Camille starts losing her shit. Camille sits down with Cornelius and she's damn near about to cry because he was entertaining Sydney. I was like, you're looking crazy. This does not look good. You're looking like Denise. You're using words like boyfriend. That's not your man. It's been 2 weeks. I'm not understanding. I'm starting to feel like she's lying. I have to keep going back to this, y'all. In the casting special, we found out that she was engaged 3 times, and she says each time she called off the engagement. Girl, you are giving run vibes, okay? Cornelius, I need you to be a runner or a track star. I need you to be a runner or a track star, because Camille is not the way to go. Trust your gut. You said in the beginning that you had to watch for Camille's possessiveness. You know what it is. This is not it. So after Camille showing her ass, I have to say, y'all, I put in all capital letters in my notes. Why can't Cornelius date without Camille? Stop putting Cornelius on these group dates with Camille. I want to see Cornelius make other connections with other women on the show. Cornelius seems like a really good dude. He has no debt. Okay. He's a Christian. I think he seems like he has a lot going for himself, and y'all keep putting him in this situation for entertainment. Well, I mean, it's a show, but y'all, it would be even more messy if y'all allowed him to date other people while also dating Camille. Anyway, we see Dante and Sydney on this date. We'll get into that for a hot second. She says that she likes that Dante is spiritual because y'all know he does yoga and all that other stuff. Other than that, we don't know very much about Dante. So Dante and Sydney have a connection for now. Now back to Camille and Cornelius. Y'all, I have to call out 2 things that I saw about Camille that I feel like most people probably would not have noticed. So if you go back to the pool scene, when she's sitting there and she's crying and she's upset that Cornelius was talking to Sydney, she lays her head on his shoulder. And then whenever you see her in the next scene, he has makeup on his shoulder. And I feel like her possessive ass was just trying to mark territory. She was trying to brand him like, this is my man, this is my boyfriend. So if another woman come up to you and talk to you, she sees my makeup on this shirt and she knows that we're much closer than y'all are. That was strike number 1. Strike number 2 is on this group date, Cornelius walks in with this hat on his head. Then once you get to the next scene, Camille has the hat on her head. Possessiveness, very high school. It's giving me like whenever kids were in high school, and they would intentionally like make sure the other person had a hickey. They would intentionally walk around in your boyfriend's varsity jackets because you wanted somebody to know that was your man. It's childish, but I feel like Camille is being very tactical with this, and it's not cute. Cornelius, run. So Camille apologizes to Cornelius for the way that she acted because she notices that things have been awkward. He accepts her apology, but for the sake of being the nice guy, Cornelius, trust your gut and run. He tells her, well, you already know, you're my number 1 connection right now. And that's where you messed up. He also said, I also want to take my time to be sure. And that's where you messed up, because you're not being 100% honest with her. You need to let her know that you need to date other people on this show. It's J Dub. He says Cornelius is hiding something. J Dub, I was thinking the same exact thing. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all my red flag for Cornelius. My red flag for Cornelius in the beginning of the show was in the casting special. He talked about how he was a Christian and how he also wanted to get married because he was getting older, and also because he wanted to make his parents proud. To me, it's a red flag when a man is reaching 40 and you don't want to get married because you want to get married. You want to get married to meet a timeline. You want to get married to fit into society the way that people think you should. So why aren't you married? Why don't you want to get married? Why are you feeling like the reason to get married is your parents? So that was my red flag for Cornelius. But as of lately, y'all, any red flag that we saw with Cornelius in the beginning is going to be overshadowed by Camille and her possessive ass. Camille isn't even letting this man breathe enough for her to back up and decide if he's what she wants. So anyway, Camille, I noticed everything that she was doing, from the makeup to this hat. Cornelius accepts her apology. I wish he didn't do it so quickly because you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So now, y'all, let's move on to the ladies' lounge. The ladies are recapping all of the events that happened this week, and they go around and they say, who are you feeling? Shiloh says that she's still feeling Tyrone, and she's also feeling Phil, which is new because all before her top connections were Tyrone and Dante. Now she's feeling Phil. We saw her on the date with him last week. So I'm like, okay, cool. Sydney says that she's feeling Dante and Frank. Sydney is the new girl. Of course, you're feeling Dante because you went on the double date with him and you said you like how spiritual he was. Then you're feeling Frank because you and Frank already have mutual friends and y'all also know each other from the nightlife, like she says. I don't know what that is. Tisha says that she's feeling Phil. I had to call this out because Phil has to be I feel like Phil is one of the guys who hasn't made very many connections on this show, or at least his connections came later. So for Tisha to say that she had a connection with Phil, that's because it's game time. Phil knows that in order for him to stay on the show, he's going to have to make some type of connection. So for you to choose Phil lets me know that Tisha is soon to go home next because she doesn't have any real connections either. So Courtney, she says that she is feeling Corey and Cornelius. And she says, I actually have love notes that I can show y'all. She goes through the love notes. And y'all want to know the joke of it all? Is that Corey also told Courtney that he wants her to meet his parents. And that's the same thing that he told me. So everybody gets upset like, oh my gosh, he's playing a game. Oh my gosh, he's a clown. I didn't know. You should have knew. You should have knew. So that's what happens. Then they go around and they're talking about who you're not feeling. So Sydney says that she's not feeling Cornelius. And she says that that's because Cornelius was giving her little brother vibes. Now, Sydney, you probably not feeling Cornelius because Cornelius was probably shaking in his damn boots from Camille watching y'all talk the whole time. He didn't even really get a chance to talk to you comfortably because Camille was breathing down his damn neck. Some other names that pop up as far as people aren't feeling is Frank. Also, Sean, the new dude. Sean, nobody knows what he does for work. Camille says that he's like, Tommy, you ain't got no job, man. So I have to agree. I don't know what this entrepreneur thing is. Tyrone, then they bring up Tyrone again, saying that they're not feeling him. Sabrina tells everybody that Tyrone says, well, Shiloh is my wife. Like, I'm no longer interested in you, right? And yes, I see y'all in the comments. Everybody is saying that Shiloh looks older than what she claims. Y'all, I agree 100%. She said she was 32 or 33. And I'm definitely getting 42, 44. I think she's lying. She's a beautiful woman, but I think she's lying. So anyway, yeah, they start talking about what Tyrone said, which was that Shiloh was his wife. And Shiloh starts crying. And she just feels the pressure, really, because she knows that she's flattered that Tyrone likes her, but she knows that she's going to have to send this man home. Okay. So now, y'all, Let's move on to the final scene. Y'all killing me in these comments talking about Shiloh. Y'all killing me in these comments. Y'all said y'all thought she was 38. I honestly thought she was older than that when I saw that at the beginning. I was like, nah, ain't no way. Ain't no way you 3 years old, because no. Okay. So we're gonna move on. Now, y'all, the final scene is the elimination. We see Shiloh meet up with Tyrone, and Tyrone was actually super excited to see Shiloh. And then we see Corey and Courtney meet up. Now, we were told at the beginning of this episode that one man would go home, but they shook it up and they sent two men home. So the first one we find out about is Tyrone. Shiloh breaks it down to him easy, and she says that she needs more time and that the ladies have decided that he's not ready to love. But he still hugs her, and she says this is the worst first date ever. And I think the reason why this went so well is because the door is still open. Y'all know this is a show where they exchange numbers. They hang out when the cameras are not around. So Tyrone don't care. Tyrone is like, I might not be able to have you now, but you still gonna be my wife. So I can't wait to hear if anything has happened between Shiloh and Tyrone once we get to the reunion part of this season. Yes, be stoked. She says, mind you, this was their first date and you already calling her a wife. Facts. It's something that's very red flaggy, very possessive, and that type of passion so soon can definitely end up in a danger zone. So I see it, I peep it. Now, the second elimination, of course, is Corey. So Courtney is telling Corey that basically the gig is up. We have found out that, you also told me that you want to meet her parents as well. And Corey said, well, everybody has to wait their turn because then the next person will get a week to be the queen. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who wants to wait their turn to date you on a dating show where your ass can get eliminated like you are right now? So Courtney says, you're getting eliminated. You are not ready to love. And he says, I knew that. I knew that when I came into this date. You're so lame. I will say to y'all, every single season, you can tell just about how lame a dude is by the way that they get sent home. I have to say this season it was Carrington for me. When Carrington got sent home, he tried to make it seem like it was the women's fault, that the women were so boring that he had to have scripted conversations with each of them. And if it wasn't for him, the conversation would have been so dead. Then you see this clown Corey. I knew that. I knew I was going home. It wasn't no thing. Yeah, you was playing the whole time. He was playing the entire time, and you are lame. So I was so glad because at first, when I thought Tyrone was going to be the only person sent home, I was like, who's keeping this clown on here? I need to talk to production. ASAP. Okay. Yes, they finally got it right. Okay. Monique, this sounded about right. Monique says Tyrone probably put all kinds of tracking devices on his future wife. Okay. And I think he said he was a cybersecurity CEO or some sort of tech CEO. So I wouldn't put it past him at all. That definitely feels very on brand for Tyrone. Kay says Tyrone seemed like the type that would be looking in your window at night, like the show You on Netflix. Y'all killing me. Tyrone, red flags across the board, y'all. Whatever red flags we saw with Cornelius, those are being overshadowed by Camille, but I'm starting to feel a little bit more like the red flags that I saw in the beginning might be accurate. I don't know. I don't know. Has Cornelius really discovered himself? Is it really women that you are into? Because usually when it's the forced mix of the making parents proud and church and about to be 40, it's like, is it really a woman you want to marry? And then it's also like this woman, Camille, is not it for you, but you're okay because she likes you. I've had many friends, I actually have a lot of friends who are now gay men, but as we were growing up, they would always be in relationships with girls who were obsessed with them, but it was never reciprocated. But they were okay with that because they wanted to have a girlfriend. And I feel like that's what Camille and Cornelius is giving. Who knows? Okay. Who knows? Ain't no telling. So, y'all, This clown is for Corey. I had to throw it up here. Y'all be sure to like the video before we move into our next segment because the video ain't over yet, y'all. It is time to get into Love and Marriage Huntsville. Okay, we are 36 minutes in. Let me remember that so I can time mark it for the people who are watching this on playback. Y'all, this episode, I don't know. I have to let y'all know. For Love and Marriage Huntsville, I'm ready to get to the reunion. I'm over it at this point. I'm over seeing Mel and Martell argue, very much over it. I do not have screenshots for Love and Marriage Huntsville, so we just gonna get right into it, y'all. I hope y'all will follow, okay? So now, y'all, new show. Let's get into Love and Marriage Huntsville. In the beginning of the episode, we find out that the comeback group is meeting up again to discuss potentially getting back together or at least working on some projects. Mel and Marceau are the first people there. Mel and Marceau start talking about what happened with the Destiny race. They start talking about the moms. And Mel and Marceau both agree that it was a hot mess. But what I thought was funny was that Marceau says to Mel in the conversation, even if we had the proof, this is in reference to Miss Vanessa potentially cheating or being with a married man. Marceau says, even if we had the proof, you still don't say that. And I just thought it was funny that he said, even if we had the proof. Mel then in her confessional says, I think it's funny that Marceau is agreeing with me now that Wanda was wrong, when last year Marceau was saying that someone had a video or a sex tape of her mom. Y'all, I told y'all I was late to Love and Marriage Huntsville. I had binge watched, but I never remembered him saying that about Miss Vanessa. So that took me out. This group has been up, down, and on through it because ain't no way I would have fooled with somebody who claimed they had a sex tape on my mom. What? So anyway, Tisha ends up showing up next, and she says that her and Mel are still in a good place. And one thing I have to say is, anytime Wanda comes around, I'm talking about last episode, y'all know that chaos follows. But if you listen to the things that Wanda's saying and the energy that she brings, it's definitely the energy that Tisha has when the cameras aren't around. Tisha just isn't as bold and ignorant enough to stand in her shit. So Wanda shows up and she says all of it for her. So last week when Wanda was calling Mel a snake, obviously those are conversations that she had with Tisha. She didn't make that up, right? But then this week, Tisha don't want no smoke. So she shows up and she says, yeah, me and Mel are still in a good place. She's being very strategic. That's why she's so passive, just like Kimmy explains. So the comeback crew finally meets up. And it's so funny to me because that's the whole reason why they started the show, was to do the comeback crew stuff. And really this entire show has just been about love, marriage, and mess, which I'm here for it, okay? I'm not hating. I'm just saying it's funny that the comeback crew is the reason why y'all are meeting up. Yes, B Stokes. B Stokes says, we all know Tisha puts a battery in her mama back. Facts. So Martell, he shows up last and he says that Mel has done a good job with her office. It's the office space that used to be their office. She didn't change the logo. She didn't put up different pictures and everything else. So they go ahead and they start the meeting. And Mel says, Martell, where are the kids? And he says that they're in your office. Mel reasonably gets upset because I feel like if you're watching the kids and you're bringing the kids to somewhere where Mel is, how do you think that just because it's your week to have the kids, she shouldn't greet her children? That was weird to me, and he knows exactly what he was doing by trying to do that. So Mel gets up and she says, okay, well, first of all, if my kids are here, I'm going to go greet them. Second of all, I have to make sure they don't tear my office up. Good point, right? So she goes and she talks to the kids, and the kids are so excited to see her. She comes back, and this is the part where I rewinded at least 3 times because I wasn't exactly sure how this argument started. But then once I heard Marceau talking in his confessional, Low key, nobody knows how it started because it seemed very much so that Mel and Martell were the only people that knew what they were arguing about. They were arguing about a conversation that they had to have in the past. So we find out that Mel is not open to being in the group, whereas Martell is still open. Of course, Martell, you still open to being in a group because you don't have a damn builder's license. Tell me what it's like to be a buyer without not a buyer, a builder without a license. Tell me what it's like to title yourself something and have none of the credentials for it and still make money on it off the backs of other people. So that would have had to been a red flag right there, because one thing I feel like we know is Martell has probably been the same this entire time. Mel probably just didn't notice it. She probably definitely thought he was a boss. They was a power couple. But ultimately now she's seeing that she was the power in that couple. You know, when they say, what are you bringing to the table? Mel was the whole table. And that's why Martell is always losing his shit, because he's probably feeling like he's walking around naked all of the time because people are looking at him crazy. So anyway, like I said, of course, Martell is still interested in doing business. So Mel's trying to explain how she feels about things. And she says, well, I want to do what I said I wanted to do a long time ago. And Martell says, what is that? Continue to neglect our kids? Martell is so embarrassed by what he has done that anytime he gets the chance to try to make Mel look bad, he does just that. And he knows that her trigger is either calling her a cheater or trying to make her look like a bad mom. That's what he does. She then responds. They start arguing. It's almost uncontrollable. Don't really remember what was said because we've seen them argue so many times. I was tired of it, y'all. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. I was tired of it. So Martell gets upset. I think he calls her a cheater, right? And she says, well, prove it. And he says to her, well, that's what you always say. You always want to tell me, how do you know this, or prove it? Well, no shit. If you make claims about someone, you need to come with the facts. Martell is just so Martell is so calculated, but yet so dumb. You try to make these claims to make her look bad. And then whenever she says, prove it, you can't do it. And then you try to make her look bad. Oh, you always say that. You always say, prove it. And it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So I need y'all to get to the point to where y'all just don't fool with each other. This episode wasn't very much different than the other ones for me because they are always arguing. Come on, comments. Sugar Shan says, the cat is out of the bag now, Martell. We know you're an asshole. We can't unknow it. Facts. That's simply what it is. We know what it is. We can't unknow it. Every time we see him with Mel, he tries to do things and at this point, y'all, he knows what the group feels. At this point, he's doing stuff to try to manipulate the audience. He's doing things to try to clear his name, just like his mama did last episode by talking about how Mel worked him to the ground. How is Mel going to work him to the ground with no builder's license? How? What was the reason? Make it make sense. So now I feel like Miss Marlene and Martell are on this show to try to reverse everybody else's thoughts. Like, you can't do it, okay? It's over. One Love Shar says the audacity of cheaters being mad and bitter. Facts. Mad and bitter. I don't get it. So anyway, he gets up, and like most people do, when you start shit and you know you can't finish it and you know you can't prove the things that you're alleging, you decide to get up. And you know that's another trigger because you have the kids this week. So you get up and you take the kids abruptly, and you hear the oldest daughter saying, Daddy, that was quick. Because she's probably like, what happened? Like, we came, I was here expecting to see my mom, and now you're getting up and you're leaving. And he's upset. And I'm sure she's seen so many things go down in their household that chaoticness gets her really worked up. She doesn't understand exactly what's going on. She doesn't even really know that. She doesn't know at all that she has another sibling. She doesn't know at all that Martell has started another family somewhere else. So she's confusion. Martell, you owe your daughter an explanation as far as what's going on, besides trying to blame her mom for stuff and trying to make her mom look bad. I just can only imagine her not knowing anything at all. You see your parents being lovey-dovey one day, then all of a sudden, boom, stuff changes and you don't know exactly what it is. You don't know if it's something that you have done as a child. And I think it's great that they're trying to take them to therapy, but I think somebody, if Martell doesn't tell his kids about this fifth child and this woman, somebody needs to tell them. Somebody needs to tell them because they need an answer and they need reasoning as for why they broke up. They really do. So anyway, he leaves with the kids. And whenever he goes outside, Mel says, let me ask y'all something. Why do y'all want to do business with Martell? Mel has already told everybody that she doesn't want to do business when it comes to Martell. Now, on the flip side, when she was asking that, the vibe I got was that the group probably didn't want to do business with neither one of y'all, because where Martell definitely stirs shit up, Mel bites the bait every single time. So in those situations, I have to say it takes two. So when Mel said that, I think she thought that Martell showed how he can be in that scene, and Martell was the only one to show his ass. While yes, Martell shows his ass, I think the general consensus is that Martell is an ass. Okay. So nobody's shocked there. But people are disappointed that Mel continues to bite the bait when it comes to Martell. So he leaves. He gets a phone call, or Mel gets a phone call from Martell, and she finds out that the oldest baby is crying. So they come back. And this is where Marceau starts talking to Martell and he's hollering at him. You need to stop it. This is a lifelong journey. You have the kids in this car and you don't want to be explaining to your kids when you're 56 years old why things are the way they are. And Marceau, I feel like you are the perfect person to explain this to Martell. The reason why is because if anybody knows anything about co-parenting, it's Marceau and Tisha. Only difference is they married, they just not actually together is what it feels like. So he knows what it means to be in a lifelong commitment because him and Tisha have essentially said to us, bad marriage for life. So I think you need to teach Marceau, this is a lifelong commitment. So you might as well buckle your panties up. And if you're going to have to be sad, you just got to be sad. Okay. And it is what it is. So Marceau is nodding his head. They show him in the confessional, shook. But the thing is, Marceau, just like I explained Corey from earlier, Martell, just like I explained Corey from Ready to Love, he's not one of those people where emotion and logic are wired. He's one of those people where emotion is on display, but logically you're working everything in the back, trying to be intentional. Martell, you're showing us in your confessional that you're sad, but logically you're trying to make Mel look like a bad person. You are trying to clear your name. You're trying to look sad so we feel bad for you. It's your own fault. What do we feel bad for you for? I don't, and I don't think anybody else does. So I'm completely over it. So now, y'all, we move on to the next scene. The next scene is Maurice and Marceau. They have a conversation about Martell and Melanie. And he says that he would never do business with them because he's not putting his name on the line for Martell. He says they act like they don't know how to shut up. And he says, but if you want to do business, then you know how to be quiet. So the part that took me out was because you knew Marceau was completely done with them when he said, ain't no way in hell. And I know that ain't no way in hell came from ain't no way in hell I'm about to let you mess my money up. And I agree with you 100%. What Maurice and Marceau also talk about while they're playing tennis is the meeting with Dr. Francis. Maurice is giving him or relaying the advice that he got from Dr. Francis. Marceau is basically saying that shit don't apply to him and that he's not going to allow weak moments to derail him from the plans of being who he was meant to be. So Marceau, if that's what you want to believe in, that's just what you are going to believe in. So now, y'all, thank you so much for the recommendation. Aloe vera and cocoa butter. I need it. I just curl, snap my whole face. Okay, so now the next scene is Mel, Tisha, and Kimmy meeting up. Y'all, we get no Destiny and no Tiffany this episode. So what the ladies talk about, they say, what was going on between you and Martell? And Mel said, well, usually what always goes on. And I think that was the perfect explanation. But my thing is like, if you know that's what always goes on, Mel, I need you to stop getting so triggered by the things that you know he does to try to trigger you, which is trying to make you a bad mom and calling you a cheater. Martell doesn't have to prove anything. I think we all feel like he's lying. And the thing is, even if you did cheat in that marriage, we wouldn't care. Okay. I hope you cheated in that marriage. We wouldn't care. So, Mel, while Martell put his ass on display, I feel like I need you to stop going for the bait. So she says that Martell needs to quit trying to wish that she was a bad mom. So in response, Kimmy says, how can we help you? And Mel says, don't have us in the same room together anymore. I second that. I think that's an amazing idea. I think we've seen that too many times this season to where I feel like y'all should have learned earlier on. But then again, this is a show that y'all are both on. So it's kind of hard to avoid that. So the other thing that we end up talking about is Tisha and Kimmy. They started talking about this group text versus the phone call. I was kind of confused about it in the episode that it aired, but what I'm ultimately getting from this, Tisha was feeling some type of way. So instead of Tisha communicating directly with her sister-in-law like she normally does, she put her in a group text and kept communication to a minimum. So Kimmy says that she only got petty with Tisha because Tisha announced to everyone that only Destiny and Mel had sponsored the event. And unbeknownst to Kimmy, Kimmy says that she didn't know that Maurice never wrote the check for them. So in a normal world, when Tisha's not feeling some type of way, Tisha calls Kimmy on the phone and she says, hey girl, Maurice is late to submit the check. Can we get the check from y'all? And then it's submitted. So by Tisha not saying anything at all, it was almost as if she just wanted that opportunity to say, y'all don't support me. And I think Kimmy is 100% correct. So Kimmy says to her, you know, we've written checks for all y'all's events. We've donated plenty of money. And what y'all have done don't really compare. Tisha says, well, we drove all the way to Troy to see Jalen Cross. Okay, but the money though. Thank you. You should support your nephew as family, but the money though. So I think Tisha doesn't make a lot of sense. And like I told y'all, what she's gonna do is talk shit to her mama for sure. She's gonna talk shit to her mama. And then we're gonna see her mama basically be that smoke for her in future scenes. So once the conversation starts getting more real and Tisha doesn't have answers to explain all of her emotions, all she says was, you know, going forward, I'm going to call you. I actually look up to you. And they hug it out. And based on the previews for next week, it seems like they're going to get into it again about the same shit. Y'all keep arguing. Kimmy keeps coming with facts, facts, facts. Tisha keeps bowing down. And you know she's still feeling some type of way, calling her mama on the phone, talking all that smoke to her mama, and her mama will be the one to expose it. So, Tisha, I'm gonna need you to get better at communicating for sure. I don't think it's fake drama. I don't think it's fake drama at all. I think Tisha is just very scared. She's very scary. She's not good at explaining herself, which is why she usually bows down in these arguments. Thank you to Busy Bees. I made this sweatshirt. Thank you. So anyway, let's go on to Martell and Fred. Y'all, this was funny. So Fred was the dude who agreed to do business with Martell because they were friends. Fred also had been through a divorce, so he felt bad for Martell. So he's asking Martell, have you been studying for this builder's license? And Martell says, yeah, you know, I was motivated by the kids. I was looking through my books briefly, and then I was like, nah, this is too much. So then Fred is looking at him like, no, you need to focus. And Martell says, well, of course I need to focus. I mean, I'm just focused on a lot of stuff right now. I mean, we're business partners. It's not like I'm riding your back. Or is it? Okay. Or is it? Or are you trying to find somebody else's back to ride so you can close these deals and become a builder with no license? Okay. Somebody tell me. Tell me how to do it. Okay. I'll work with a builder with no license and get cut a check at the end of it because you're not doing anything, Martell. And Fred notices that. Fred is trying to be respectful. Fred is like, yes, I agree to work with you under the guise that you will be working on yourself. I can't stand nobody that claims that they want better for themselves. And then once you're actually put to task, you start coasting because you know you got somebody to cross your ass across the finish line, and then you get a check at the end of these business dealings. So, Fred, I need you to hold him accountable. He's not going to take that test. I will bet money that he might lie about it, but I will bet money that he's not licensed still. And he's going to try to ride your coattails for as long as he can. So in the middle of him talking to Fred, he gets a FaceTime from Mel. When he gets a FaceTime from Mel, he's all of a sudden cheesing. Mel wants to talk to me. Mel, this isn't typically like her. And this dude is so crazy that he gets excited that he's getting a phone call from Mel. And I think he gets even more excited knowing that he can still pull emotion from Mel, even if it's bad. He doesn't care what type of emotion he can get from Mel as long as he knows that he's still getting her attention and that he's still working her up. So part of me feels like this is the phone call where he thought Mel was going to come and say, hey, let's get back together. Because he joked about it earlier in the season. And I think this man is dead ass serious. I think he does things because he just wants to know if he still got it. He feels like, some attention is better than no attention at all. And that's why, Mel, you need to start paying him dust. So Mel shows up. And again, y'all, they start having a conversation and it feels like it's about something that we're not understanding. And it's kind of explained out of order. So Mel shows up and she says that she wants to talk about boundaries. But what was funny was when she first FaceTimed him, he said, is this phone call about the kids? And she said, nothing. You knew what the phone call was about, Martell, because we find out that Martell actually saw her at a restaurant with a guy. And instead of them getting to it, it's like Martell goes straight into his role. Martell knows what role is supposed to be played when Mel comes around. So part of me knew, Martell, you knew this conversation was going to be about you seeing her at dinner with another man. But you tried to deter Mel from exposing that on camera. So what you did was you brought up something different. He says to her, well, you always post stuff on social media. Martell, you know that this meeting is not about that. This meeting is all about you being jealous that she was on a date, but you didn't want her to expose that. So you try to deter her into talking about something else. This dude is just so strategic, yet so dumb. Anybody with common sense can tell what's going on. So anyway, Mel, she somehow gets the conversation back to what it was. She was like, yeah, you saw me at the restaurant. You were supposed to be on a business meeting, but yet you ended the meeting early. You came over to me and you were asking, why are you taking this dude to our restaurant? Our restaurant? What? And then she says, yeah, that's why you keep saying to me, you gonna be my wife again. And that's where he says, no, I only told you that I wanted to get back with you for the kids. That's what you keep saying, but that's not what you mean. You keep saying things to Mel in private, just like when y'all were in Vegas and you walked in her room at 2:00 in the morning to try to apologize. It's something going on. Mel, I need you not to get triggered. And just the simple fact that this man said our restaurant, he still thinks that Mel is his property. He still thinks Mel is his property. Let me ask y'all something in the comments, okay? If you're dating somebody or if you're married to somebody and y'all go to a specific restaurant, y'all break up and you take somebody else there, is that y'all's restaurant or is that your restaurant? Because I don't see nothing wrong. I've had friends take me to some pretty good restaurants and that restaurant has turned into my restaurant. Okay. So it is what it is. That's my thought on it. So anyway, that's that. She said that he was recording them. She said, stop recording us. You're being disrespectful. And he says to her, of course I'm gonna be disrespectful. But then he tries to rewind it and say something else. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. And then they leave the episode on to be continued. Okay. He is just, Ayana, I have to agree with your comment. Ayana says, dare I say that Martell is doing more damage now than he did with his actual affair if he would just take accountability. Facts. This is the part that's worse, okay? Because you would have seen normal if you just cheated. I mean, people cheat in relationships every day, okay? If you would have admitted to that, you had an outside baby and moved on, fine. But the whole thing of you backpedaling, trying to manipulate, lying on Mel, trying to make her seem like a bad mom, talking about custody, trying to gaslight the audience. Because at this point, y'all, Comeback Crew knows that Martell is full of shit. He's not doing this for them. He's trying to gaslight us. He's also trying to make sure that he still has control over Mel's emotions. This is what's making it worse, okay? But y'all, I cannot. He took a picture of the new guy. Yes, B Stokes. That was weird. Super duper weird. Carla says, nobody about to stop me from eating good food. Period. Okay. I agree. Nobody is going to stop me from eating good food. Kay says, I'm still going to my favorite restaurant. The fuck? It is what it is, Keisha. I agree. J-Dub, let me read this comment. J-Dub says, Martell is a child. I think it could get dangerous for real. Facts. People who are not wired to have some sort of morale, people who are always worried about being very calculated and always trying to make sure that they have control of perception, those type of people are dangerous. And I see that in Corey from Ready to Love, like I talked about earlier in this live review. And I see that in Martell. It can get dangerous. I also see it in Tyrone. So y'all got to know when them red flags is enough, just to say it's enough. Make sure y'all thumbs up this video, y'all, for sure. Yes, I have to say Keisha Keys. She says, had the nerve to keep saying, Mel, do better, do better. And she said, I'm not your woman anymore. Y'all, the other thing I have to point out that was really petty, I almost forgot to mention it. When Martell answered the phone, he was being very sneaky and trying to trigger her. When he answered the phone, he said, what's up, Miss Holt? He still wants to basically throw in her face like, that's my last name. You still my wife. And that's what he was trying to do by being passive when he answered the phone and said, hey, Miss Holt. Y'all, Mel, you would have been... I understand some people don't like to change their last name because of their kids, but you probably should have done that. You probably should have changed your last name back because this man is just... But then there's also the business side of it too. I understand why she didn't do it. But I just wish she would have, because Martell is just... Somebody need to break the hinges off this dude. I think you need to show him that you do not fool with him anymore, like at all. I think you need to show him that he does not faze you at all. Okay, so y'all, that's all I have for this video today. We've been on for an hour. I will go ahead and timestamp where Love and Marriage Huntsville starts for those of you who end up watching this on playback. So like I said, y'all, my birthday is Thursday, 11/11. Ooh Ladies First panel will be on my channel this week, so y'all can catch the video premiere then. But with that being said, I hope y'all have a good rest of y'all Sunday. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next